The silence between Arya Stark and Sandor Clegane had grown heavier with every mile. After escaping the Red Wedding's carnage, the blood of her brother and mother still fresh in the air, Arya's fire had turned into ice. Cold, quiet, calculated. The Hound had grown wary of her silence. The girl no longer snapped, nor asked questions. She sharpened her dagger every night. She watched him, not like a child afraid, but like a wolf, deciding when to bite. One morning, they argued, harshly. Arya refused to follow. She demanded to go east, toward the Vale, toward Sansa. The Hound had other plans. He snapped, barked orders, threatened. But Arya stood firm. "You think you're my father," she spat. "You're just a dog who bites when he's scared." The Hound lunged, not with intent to kill, but to shut her up, to scare her. But Arya moved, fast. The scuffle was short, but brutal. Her dagger found his arm, his fist found her ribs, then her head. She hit the tree behind her with a crack. The Hound froze. Arya? No. Answer blood pooled beneath her tangled brown hair. No movement. No breath. She was dead. Sandor Clegane fell to his knees. He had killed a Stark. He had killed to her. By evening, he burned her body. Not because of love. Not yet. Because the North deserved its dead treated with honor. He didn't weep. Not visibly. But the way he stared at the flames said everything. News traveled slow, but it traveled. A whisper in the wind reached the ears of Brienne of Tarth, and later, Sansa. A girl with wolf's eyes lies beneath the trees near the Blackwater Rush. A girl who bled like winter. Sansa did not cry. She simply stared ahead, jaw clenched. She was the last piece of my heart. The North did not rise. Not yet. Jon Snow had not heard the tale, but Ghost felt it in his bones when they passed through the forest. Something sacred had been lost. Somewhere in the Riverlands, weeks after Arya's death, the Hound walked alone, not just in body, but in soul. The road no longer held purpose, only punishment. Every innkeeper's stare, every soldier's whisper felt like a curse on his back. He hadn't buried her. No grave could do her justice. He had burned her, because fire at least felt honest, and now the flame lived inside him, eating him slowly. At night he didn't dream, he relived. "Why did you kill me?" she'd whisper from the shadows. Sandor would scream awake, sweat-soaked, swinging at air. They found him half dead near a ruined village. Thoros and Beric didn't ask questions, not at first, but Lem Lemoncloak recognized the guilt in his silence. "He's hiding something," Lem growled. "He's running from something." Beric stared into the fire one night and said only one thing. "The Lord of Light doesn't bring justice, he brings debt, and this one owes." But Sandor said nothing. He had one purpose left now. Find Sansa Stark, tell her himself. He would take her hate. He would take her justice. He would not let anyone else carry Arya's ghost. Jon Snow had seen death. He'd worn it like a second cloak. But when the Raven came with Sansa's letter, sealed in Winterfell wax and streaked with tear marks, his blood turned to ice. Arya is gone. The Hound did it. On accident, they say. I don't care. He will answer for it. Ghost howled that night. Jon didn't speak a word for hours. He stood on the wall looking south, wind whipping through his hair. She survived Harrenhal, the road, the war, and he... Sam tried to offer comfort. Maybe it wasn't murder. Jon cut him off. She was a Stark. That was all that mattered. Sansa lit a candle for Arya each night, then 2, then 3. "I should have protected you," she whispered. "I should have kept you close. But I sent you away. I always send them away." Brienne stood beside her, silent, hand on her sword hilt. Her own guilt was carved into her face. Then came a raven from the Vale. The Hound is heading north, alone. By the end of that moon, all of the North buzzed with one name. The Hound is coming. Some wanted him dead, some wanted him judged, and a few, a rare few, wanted to hear him speak, but none of them expected what he would bring. On the King's Road, one day, North of the twin snow fell earlier than usual this year. It didn't stick, but it clung to the earth like it was warning the ground of worse to come. The Hound rode a stolen horse. No name, no saddle. Just a worn sword, ragged cloak, and the ghost of a girl clinging to his every step. His beard was overgrown, eyes hollow. He barely looked human. At every village, people knew. They didn't speak, just stared. Because news in Westeros travelled not by birds, but by the hush that came before fire, and in every whisper, the girl with the needle died by his hand. Jon Snow had left Castle Black in silence, taking only Ghost and a handful of trusted men, not to lead an army, but to find justice, his justice. Sansa had pleaded to come. No, Jon had said, if I see him, I won't have words. Brienne came instead, quiet, ready. I gave an oath, she told Jon. He didn't reply, but when he looked at her, something passed between them, shared guilt, shared purpose. Bran dreamed again. This time it wasn't dragons or the wall, it was fire, a small girl screaming beneath the trees, the crack of skull on bark, the heat of a pyre. He awoke, shivering. Arya's death was not just a tragedy, he whispered to Mira. It's a thread in something bigger. What do you mean? She asked, worried. Bran turned his white eyes toward the flames. She was meant to be more. And when fate is denied, the world punishes us for it. It was dusk when the Hound saw them. Riders on the horizon. Jon Snow. At the front, Ghost beside him, snarling like he knew exactly who they faced. Brienne's sword glinted at her side. The Hound dismounted, threw down his sword, didn't speak. Jon stared for a long time. You killed her. I did, Sandor said, hoarse. Not like you think, but I did. Silence, the kind that makes your blood loud in your ears. Brienne stepped forward. Why? Are you here? The Hound didn't answer right away, just looked at Jon. Because there's a debt to pay and I'm not running. Then he reached into his cloak and pulled out a small bundle, wrapped in cloth, a dagger. Arya's dagger. The one with the Valyrian steel blade and dragonbone hilt. Jon's breath caught. You kept it? I couldn't throw it away, the Hound said, voice cracking for the first time. Didn't feel right. Jon took it with trembling hands, and for a moment, just a second, the ghost of Arya Stark stood between them. That night, they made camp together. Not as friends, not even as allies, but as people bound by pain. Jon didn't kill him, not yet. Bran's words echoed. She was meant to be more. And somewhere far beyond the wall, in the ice-crowned north, something ancient stirred. Because fate doesn't like to be cheated. Beyond the wall, the heart of winter, the winds howled like wolves that had lost their pack. At the center of a frozen forest, deep beneath layers of ancient snow, the Night King stood unmoving, like a statue carved by the gods. His pale blue eyes were open, but not seeing. Not yet. He had been dormant, waiting, not defeated, simply paused. When Arya Stark died, something snapped in the weft of the world. Fate cracked like thin ice. The Night King moved. His first step shook the frost off centuries-old trees. The others followed. They'd felt it. The blade meant for him had never reached his chest. The Stark girl never came, and now the world had no answer for the dead. The ravens returned, but they didn't bring words, only terror. The outposts beyond Eastwatch were gone. No bodies, no blood, just silence. Maester Tarly, yes, Sam, scanned. Old texts with trembling hands. This isn't just an attack, he whispered to Gilly. It's a reset. The White Walkers were beaten by prophecy. If the prophecy dies, Gilly finished his thought. They rise again. Jon held Arya's dagger in his hand. The firelight danced on the dragonbone hilt. She wasn't supposed to go out like this, he said, voice hollow. I always thought if one of us could survive anything, that it was her. Brienne spoke, soft and slow. She didn't die because she was weak. She died because the world breaks even the strongest. The Hound stayed silent. His face was shadowed, eyes locked on the flames. "You still should have protected her," Jon growled. "I know," Sandor replied just above a whisper. "And every night I will." Sansa read the letter 3 times, then lit it on fire. "The dead march again," she told Bran, "and we have no Arya, no Daenerys, no dragons. What do we have left?" Bran looked up, eyes cloudy. "Time." "Time? Yes," he said slowly. "Not much, but enough." Then he stood, for the first time in weeks. "Call the banners. Tell them the dead ride, and that the North must rise again. The army of the dead, east of last Hearthwites, thousands of them. Marching not like zombies, but like soldiers. At their front, 2 White Walkers held shards of what once might have been life. Frozen roses, dolls, bits of old swords, symbols. They weren't just returning to conquer. They were returning to balance. The ledger, and somewhere at their back. The Night King raised a hand. From the earth something answered, a corpse, but not mindless. Small, young. Its eyes opened, not blue, not brown, but grey. "Arya?" "The Deadlands, east of the wall." She moved, like a shadow on glass, soundless, tireless. Where she walked, even the White Walkers kept their distance. Not from fear, from respect. She remembered nothing. Not her name, not her face, only that she was fast and silent and deadly. The others called her the Silent Fang, but the Night King. He knew who she was. He had pulled her from the threads of fate. Not raised her like a mindless wight, but rebuilt her piece by piece, bone by bone. Why? Because once she had been destined to kill him. And in this new game, she would serve him. Bran trembled beneath the weirwood tree. Visions came in fire and frost. Arya, but not Arya. Her face, but wrong. Her eyes, but dead. "She's coming," he whispered. Sansa knelt beside him. "Is it her?" Bran shook his head. "It's her body, not her soul." Then he opened his eyes, fully in the present, a rare thing now. "And if we fight her, we don't just fight a Stark. We fight the blade of the Night King." Jon, Brienne, and the Hound stood atop the ruins. Ravens flew like storm clouds across the sky. All messengers of the same truth. The dead are marching again, and with them, tales of a girl, a killer, fast as lightning, cold as ice. Dagger in hand. Could it be? Brienne asked quietly. "She was burned," Jon said. "We saw her burn." The Hound stayed silent, but his jaw clenched. He knew. If the Night King had touched her soul, then she was back for blood, and no one was safe. The first attack was swift, silent. A camp of northern scouts, all dead within minutes, their throats slit, not torn, clean. At the center of the carnage, carved into the snow, Valar Morghulis. Jon arrived hours later. Too late. The snow was still stained red. The Hound knelt by a corpse. "This is her," he said. She used to whisper that phrase in her sleep. What the Hound saw when she died had never left him. Her face, not scared, but accepting. Like she knew, like she had always known this was how it would end. "She wasn't afraid," he muttered. "That's what haunts me." Jon looked at the dagger, her dagger, still tucked in his belt. "What if she was meant to die?" he asked. Aloud, Brienne turned sharply. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we broke fate by trying to undo it." That night, as the snow fell heavier, Jon walked alone. Ghost walked beside him, uneasy. From the trees came no sound, no birds, no wind. Then, a voice. Small, familiar. "You never said goodbye." Jon turned, heart crashing in his chest. She stood. There Arya, wearing her old clothes, hair wild, eyes wrong, not brown, grey, cold, endless. "Arya?" he whispered. She smiled, and then vanished into the trees. Only the dagger in his belt grew colder, like it was remembering something. Winter fell. The great hall. The air was thick with silence. Jon stood at the head of the war table, surrounded by old allies. Brienne, Davos, Sam. Even Tormund, who'd come down from the wall after seeing the dead rise again. Across from him, Sansa sat straight-backed, calm, regal, but her eyes were steel. "She wears Arya's face," Jon said, voice like stone. "But it's not her. She has Arya's memories," Brienne added. "She knew things no spy could know, things only a Stark would." "So what are we saying?" Davos asked. "That the Night King made her his weapon?" "No," Bran finally spoke, quiet and cold. "He made her our punishment." Sansa's voice cracked through the hall. "Then what do we do?" Jon looked around the table. "No one here is ready for what's coming. She was trained by the Faceless Men. She knows every weak point in this castle, every tunnel, every secret passage," Tormund grunted. "Then we fight her like we'd fight a god." Jon stared down at the map. "No, we don't fight her, not yet. We lure her." She moved in silence, each step a whisper of death. Villages emptied in her wake, not because she slaughtered, but because she left one survivor. Always one, eyes wide, mouth trembling. "She smiled at me," they'd say, "like she knew me, like she was me." She wasn't killing randomly. She was heading somewhere, home. Bran sat alone among the bones of the kings and queens of Winter. He'd seen her, not just the thing wearing her face, but Arya, the soul that remained, shattered and buried deep. "She's still in there," he whispered to the dark. "Trapped." And something answered, a voice from the shadows. "You saw me." Arya stepped forward from the blackness. Not walking, gliding, Bran didn't flinch. "Why are you here?" "To remember," she said. "To remember what?" She knelt beside the statue of Ned Stark and whispered, "Who I was, before he broke me." Then she vanished. The next day, Jon walked into the God's Wood alone. No guards, no ghost, no sword. He stood beneath the heart tree and whispered one name, Arya. Snowflakes drifted from the branches like ashes. "I don't know what you are now," he said, "but I know who you were. And if any part of that girl is still alive, come home." Silence. Then, snap, a twig behind him. He turned slowly. She stood at the edge of the grove, eyes hollow, hands twitching, but no weapon. Jon stepped forward. "You know who I am?" She nodded. "Say it." Her lips moved. "Big brother." Then she lunged, not at him, at something behind him. A shadow. A White Walker. Arya tackled it to the ground, dagger in hand, not Jon's dagger. Her own, icy, cursed. The White Walker screamed as it melted into snow. Jon stared, stunned. She turned to him, shaking. "I can't stop it," she whispered. "He's inside me. I kill for him now." Jon reached out slowly. "We can fight him." Together, but she backed away. "No, you fight him. I was never meant to live past him." Then she ran, faster than shadow. Gone again. From a mountain far to the east, the Night King stood in silence. He had lost a piece of his weapon, a soul breaking through. No matter. He raised his hand again, and from the earth, the dead of Winterfell stirred. Winterfell. The eve of battle snow blanketed the courtyard, covering the ground like a burial shroud. Inside the halls, the torches flickered against ancient stone walls as Jon stood in silence, dressed in black and silver. His sword, Longclaw, rested at his side. Sansa stood beside him, regal as a true queen in the north. "She's still our sister," Jon said quietly. "She was," Sansa replied. "Now she's something worse than an enemy. She's hope twisted into a blade." Outside, Brienne was suiting up, plate over chain, hand shaking slightly as she strapped on her sword. "She saved me once," she whispered to Podrick. "Now I might have to kill her." Tormund grinned grimly. "I'll fight 1,000 whites over one angry Stark girl with a blade." They all laughed. Then the horn blew once, twice, then 3 long blasts. The dead had come. The White Walkers came from the east, quiet, organized, relentless. But Arya, she came from the inside, through the crypts. A tunnel no one remembered, but her, she moved like vengeance in the dark, striking first in the armory, silent blades, vanished guards. By the time Jon realized what was happening, it was already too late. Winterfell was fighting two wars, one outside the walls and one within. Bran sat beneath the weirwood, surrounded by Theon's old Ironborn guard. They had sworn to defend him. He opened his eyes, white with power. "She's here," he whispered. "Who?" one asked. "My sister." Then Arya appeared, dressed in shadows and ice, her face emotionless, her hand twitching around her dagger. "You were always the strangest one," she said, walking slowly toward Bran. "Even more than me." The Ironborn raised their spears. Arya looked at them. They dropped, dead, one by one. Not by steel, but by whispers. She had learned more than just faces in Bravos. Bran stared at her. "You don't want this." "I don't have wants anymore," she said. She raised her blade. But Bran whispered something, not to her but to the tree. The roots moved. A single vine whipped around her wrist. Arya screamed, for the first time. Screamed, not like a monster, but like a girl. A Stark. Jon fought like a storm. Whites dropped in waves, his sword glowing against the snow, Ghost tearing into the dead like fire. Brienne fought beside him, bloodied, tired, unbreaking. Sam had a dagger in each hand, panicked, but standing. Then the dead broke through the north gate. Sansa was dragged to safety by Podrick, screaming, "Where's Arya? Where is she?" Inside the roots of the old gods, Bran held her gaze. "You're stronger than this," he said. "You trained to lose your face, but not your name." Arya trembled, tears in her eyes. Her hand shook, and suddenly she dropped the dagger, collapsed. She looked up, and for a moment it was her. "I don't want to be a weapon," she whispered. "I want to come home." But behind her, a cold wind blew. The Night King himself stood there, no army, just him. Come to collect his greatest piece. Sword drawn, heart racing, Jon entered the Godswood and froze. The Night King stood before Bran. Arya kneeled, shaking. Jon yelled, "Charged!" The Night King turned, and with a flick of his hand, sent Jon crashing, back into a tree unconscious. Then he raised his palm and Arya rose to her feet, pulled between two masters. Her lips bled from biting them. Her body trembled. Then she looked at Bran, tears running. And at the last second, she turned. She ran straight at the Night King. Jon stirred as Arya's scream echoed through the grove. He saw her leap, saw the dagger, her real dagger, in her. Hand saw it sink into the Night King's chest. Then everything went white. The Godswood of Winterfell. After the light, the world was silent. No wind, no screams. No steel against steel, just snow falling softly, melting on scorched earth. Jon Snow lay on his back beneath the heart tree, staring up at the branches like they were the stars. He rose slowly, pain in every joint. Longclaw was still in his hand, cracked and steaming from whatever force had just surged through the grove. Across the clearing, the Night King was gone, shattered, his icy armor turned to mist. His blade gone, his body nothing more than snow and broken glass, and lying beside where he once stood was Arya, still, unmoving. Her dagger lay beside her. Jon crawled to her side, panic surging in his throat. Arya! Arya! Her eyes were closed, pale, her skin cold, not like the dead, but like something between life and death. Then she breathed, barely, a rasp. She opened her eyes, slowly. Brown, her eyes, and whispered, "Did I do it right this time?" Jon didn't answer with words. He pulled her into his arms. The girl who had once left Winterfell with a sword too big for her hands had come back not just as a killer, but as the savior she was always meant to be. The Whites collapsed in waves, like puppets with their strings cut. Northmen screamed in disbelief. Tormund laughed like a madman. Sam wept openly. Brienne stood in the snow, her sword slipping from her grip. "She did it," she whispered. "Gods forgive me, she did it." Sansa, watching from the battlements, clutched the edge of the stone wall, not from fear but from something worse. Regret. The dead were burned in massive pyres outside the walls. Snow mingled with ash. Winterfell remained, bruised, battered, but standing. In the godswood, Arya sat beneath the weirwood tree alone. Her face was her own again, but her eyes were different, older, haunted. John joined her quietly. "I thought I'd lost you," he said. "You did," she replied softly. "But I found me again." He reached into his cloak and placed something in her lap. Her dagger. "I think it belongs with you." Arya didn't take it. "I don't want it anymore." John frowned. "Why?" "Because it doesn't feel like mine. I don't want to be their weapon or anyone's." John nodded slowly. "You don't have to be, not anymore." A council gathered, not just lords but survivors. Sansa, Jon, Arya, Brienne, Davos, Sam, Tormund, even Gendry. There were no more Targaryens, no more Lannisters, just the last breath of the old world. Sansa stood at the head of the room. "The war is over, the dead are gone, and the realm is bleeding. We need peace, and peace needs a name." Jon stepped forward. "Name her." Eyes turned to Arya. She blinked. "Me. You stopped the end." "Twice," Brienne said. "I'm not a queen," Arya said. "I'm not even whole." Sansa smiled faintly. "Then what do you want?" Arya thought. Looked at the snow outside. "Just to see what's west of Westeros." A single ship, black sails, stark banner at the mast. Arya stood at the helm. No weapons, no names, no path, just the open sea. Behind her, the north healed. Before her, the unknown. She smiled. Not because she'd won, but because she was free.